I'm now going to look at creating some wheel arch surfaces. Previously we built some curves on the centre line, and we realised that we'd need to bring them out here to the edge of the wheels. But the problem is that the wheel arches have a subtle 3D shape. They're curved in both views, and it's quite difficult to just sculpt the CVs into any kind of smooth shape. It's too easy to end up with unwanted undulations. So I'm going to show you a different approach which involves projecting and trimming. So I'll get rid of these examples and I'll just bring back the original wheel arch curves. And what I'm going to do is create a simple surface across the wheel arch area. So I'll just use a plane surface from the primitives menu, and I'll grid snap it and just scale it up so that it's a little bit bigger than my curves. And I'll take a look in the top view, and I can then move that out into position. And if I turn the CVs on, then I can introduce some curvature at the front and maybe at the back as well. And then I'll switch to the back view and give it some curvature this way as well. And I'm just working quickly here to rough out the shape. So what I've got is a surface covering the whole wheel arch area. So then I can just use the project tool again. And I need to think about the direction that I want. And this time I'll want to go in Y. So I'll select my surface, say go, and then select the curve, so I'll just drag select all of these, and then say project, which then projects the shape onto the surface. And to see this better, I'll just turn off the polygon car, and I'll also turn off the grid. So you can see the projected curves, but they don't describe a complete closed outline, so the surface won't trim yet. So if I go back and turn on my centerline curves, you can see that I overbuilt my curves. So I can project these two ground line curves, and that will then give me a closed region. So I can turn off those centerline curves now, and that then leaves me a surface which I can trim to give me the wheel arch shape. And this is smooth because it's based on a simple surface, but it's also easy to modify and update using construction history. So for a concept model, it's a way of being very free to sculpt and explore shapes, while keeping the surface stiff and smooth. Now there's a second approach that I can show you on the rear wheel arch, and I'll turn on a similar surface that I've already created. And I'll use the project tool again, but this time instead of getting it to create curves on surface for trimming, I can choose to create curves. And I'll just use the match original option for now. So if I pick the surface, say go, and then pick the two curves and project, then what I get this time is two normal NURBS curves that are as close as they can be to touching that surface. So I've got a small deviation here, but that's fine. And also the curves are shown in green, which means they've got construction history. So what I've got here are curves that are still controlled by the underlying surface shape. And so I can now think of this as a construction surface which won't be there in the final model, but which is giving my design some discipline and control. So I can make that invisible. And you can see that I've got two curves that are doing some quite complex shapes. And I can use those now to build a simple skin surface, for example. So with these wheel arches, I've shown a mixture of techniques. For the curves, I used accurate arcs, or at the rear a more freeform curve, and then use projection and trimming either to create the surface or to create a curve. And whether you're doing concept modelling or technical surfacing, you can mix and match any of these techniques. And if you'd like to learn more about projecting, then take a look at the version 2011 update video on the resources section called Project and Trim.